Alright guys, for today's video, I'm getting started on building my custom jack plate for the JON boat. With the motor mounted, the cavitation plate is sitting. Honestly, it's not too bad. A couple inches under the bottom of the transom. We have room to move it up about 2 or 3 inches. Also, I'm hoping to move the motor back right where it sits now. It just barely hits my back. I would really like it if this could come back about 3 inches. That would give me total clearance and I should be able to get a seat mounted there too. So my plan to build this jack plate is using a 1/8 aluminum angle bolted onto the back of the transom, and then a piece of plywood is bolted onto the angle. To get started, first thing we got to do is get the motor off the transom. That way we can do all of our measurements and test fitting without the motor being in the way. So the motor is on the stand, and now we have full access to our transom. All right, so what I have here are my measurements. I have 2 10-inch long cuts of aluminum and 2 12-inch long cuts of aluminum. By doing that, I'll be able to have a 10-inch mount, a 10-inch mount, and then 2 12-inch risers that I can adjust as needed to adjust the height of the motor. Then between the two, I'm gonna cut a piece of plywood to give the motor something to clamp onto. First thing we gotta do is get these aluminum sections cut. I'm gonna start with the 10-inch pieces. I'm gonna get this cut and then use this piece as a template for the next one. Two 10-inch pieces are cut. Now we're going to do the 12-inch ones. We have the 2 10-inch pieces on the front. That's going to get bolted onto the transom. And then the 12-inch pieces are going to get bolted through those pieces. And then that's where the lift's going to come from. All right guys, we're back out here the next day. I'm trying to get this wood cut. I wound up finding a table saw on the Facebook Marketplace for $25. It didn't have a blade, so I'm using just a 7-inch blade for my circular saw. It fits and works. I just test cut another piece. Last time I used one was in shop class in high school. I hope I'm recording a clip for the next video and not for the ER doctor. So let's give this a try. Got on my fingers. We're doing okay. So now this is going to be our mounting plate. My plan is to have one piece down in the bottom, take this second piece, sandwich it in the middle, and then another piece on top. This is called epoxy. Don't touch it. Don't want this on you.
So if it gets wet, what happens if it gets wet?
This is completely waterproof.
The wood isn't.
This is going to make the wood waterproof.
Hesitate to buy it, but this is a really good one. These butters, they want $4. It was on sale for $2.
What?
So yeah, I got a whole bunch.
All right, well, I'm not gonna mess with it too much more. We got it clamped now. Gonna let this cure. When everything looks good, I'm gonna go ahead and trim this up one more time with the table saw so we have nice clean edges. Well, here's the clamp block after getting it all cleaned up. I trimmed up all the edges to get us nice and even so it looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and paint this now, and this should be good to go. I picked up the hardware I'm going to be using. 3-inch bolts to go through the transom. This is going to lock the support brackets in place. 3-inch bolts to go through the wood. This is going to lock the wood onto the riser plates. And then I have 1-inch bolts, and these are going to bolt the plates to the plates. All right, so I'm starting with mounting the riser bracket to the wood block first. 2 inches from the top and the bottom, and then 1-inch center on the actual mounting plate. I'm going to clamp this all up, drill straight through the wood and the metal, and then I'm going to use this piece as a template for the second piece. Well, here's a pretty goofball moment on my part. Apparently, there is a 3-inch offset on the measuring for this T-square. So instead of cutting 10-inch and 12 inches, I cut 13 inches and 15 inches. And I was wondering how my measurement was so wrong on that. I've been trying to avoid it, but I think I'm just going to redo my wood, and I will regroup once I have a new block ready to go. All right, guys, well, out with the old and in with the new. So I decided to just stick with the black. I think it blends in with the motor really nice, so I picked up a new can of enamel. All right, so with everything mostly dry, we are good to start drilling the new holes. Since I already have the holes drilled out for the brackets previously, we can just attach these right on. With everything drilled out, let's go ahead and test fit everything and see how it looks. Here's a good look at the first part of it. So the transom would be right here in this setup. This is how it's gonna look like coming off the back of the transom. And then now these brackets are gonna attach to the mounting brackets somewhere like that. All right, I got my measurements lined up for the first bracket set here. I have the riser bracket 3 inches above the support bracket, as that's the rise I'm looking to get. And I'm gonna be mounting this pretty flush with the top of the back of the transom. Okay, first hole is drilled. So we're gonna have a bolt attaching this bracket to this bracket here. Then we're gonna have a bolt here and here attaching the clamp block. And then in between these 2 bolts, I'm gonna have a mounting bolt here for the transom bolt. All right, it's now the next day. I've let all the paint cure. I'm putting this all together and we're gonna go test fit it on the boat. This is a pretty good representation of how it's gonna sit. What I'm trying to make sure we have clearance on are the studs and the top of the transom. So the studs need to make sure they are above the top of the support bracket, because the top of the support bracket is gonna be flush with the actual transom. And the studs just clear it. So I think we're good to go. All right, so getting this lined up on here is actually proving to be a little bit more complicated than I expected. I have this bracket centered on the boat and level. Now that I have this clamped up, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the block and the side mounts and then get this drilled out and installed. Okay, so the goal for installation is to not get sealant everywhere. Okay, we did pretty good without the sealant getting everywhere. Now it's time to mount the riser brackets. Each one is getting a bolt and a washer, and then the same thing on the inside. And one last small little addition I built was a nice clamp plate to slide in between the 2 brackets. This will give the clamps something to bite into without destroying into the wood. Once this is in the final position, I'm going to take the 4 bolts off holding the block on, seal everything up, and put it back on. All right, now for what we've all been waiting for, or at least what I've been waiting for. Time to mount the motor. Let's see how it looks. All right, guys, well, there it is. I am super happy with how this turned out. Honestly, this is much more complicated than it looks on the surface, mainly with all your measurements. You really have to have everything measured out perfectly for all the bolt holes to line up, centered on your transom, and just making sure everything is square. Overall, it wasn't too bad. It ended up taking about a week to finish this project, mainly because I had to redo my clamp block. Glad I took the time to rebuild the clamp block. I think it looks a lot better, and it's definitely gonna function a little bit better now. This gave me enough of a setback. I have a lot more clearance with the tiller handle. Before, this was over the back of the seat, so it was hitting my back. Now it's set back a couple inches. It's actually set back quite a bit. So that gave me a lot more clearance on the motor. Well, if you saw earlier in the video, I put a note in about if you guys are planning on attempting this yourself, to make sure you stay around to the end of the video, because I had some things that I wanted to make sure make it into this video so you guys don't make the same mistakes I did. So originally I was gonna have my build video and then I was gonna have a separate video where I go out and test it. But after testing it, I realized that this was actually made too short. And the reason for that is because of the setback that I was trying to accomplish. So the way this is set up has a 2-inch angle with a 2 1/4 inch block. This comes out to roughly 4 inches of setback. When you have that much setback on your transom, you basically need to match that in motor rise to get back to where you were to start with. What I ended up doing was a 4-inch setback and only a 3-inch rise, which actually ended up putting the motor lower in the water with the jack plate. It worked great for the actual setback. I had plenty of clearance and I was able to mount a seat. This is another video coming out soon. The problem that this generated was not only was this spraying water like crazy because it's too deep in the water, it lowered my top end. I actually ended up only hitting about 13 miles an hour at the best scenario in this current configuration. I did a little research and I found out the reason for that was the setback versus how much actual rise it got. I'm playing around with different motor heights. Right now I have about a 2-inch block, just trying to see how high I actually need to come up to get this where it needs to be. When I took it out, I maxed out around 13 miles an hour, and this was so deep in the water, it was pulling the transom down too deep. It actually made things worse in the current configuration. So to correct what I did, I'm gonna need to raise up the motor further. I've been avoiding putting out this video because I wanted to have some testing and results inside this video, but unfortunately, after I got this all built and then came home and adjusted the height, it has been either freezing cold or the lake has literally been frozen. So I have not been able to get back out there to try it at the new height yet. I will have a proper testing video on this out once I get a chance to get back on the lake. So if you guys found this helpful, don't forget to let me know by hitting that like button. If you guys want to see more videos like this, including the testing of the jack plate and some other goodies I got coming for the JON boat, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.